it's exactly 8:30, so we'll get started. Thank you all for coming to this presentation. My name is Natasha Bowens, and I'm author of The Color of Food: Stories of Race, Resilience, and Farming. Welcome. And I just want to start by saying this presentation is a little different from all the presentations here. You know, we're all here to make ourselves better farmers, learn as much as we can about biological farming, and we're not going to do any of that in here. Not directly in that way. This presentation is really a way to kind of stop what we're doing, stop kind of moving forward, just eager to learn how we can be more sustainable, and really zoom out and look at the picture of our movement, right? And are we being holistically sustainable? I don't know if you all were here for the keynote yesterday, but he mentioned having 3 requirements to be sustainable. We have to be ecologically sustainable, economically sustainable, and we have to be socially responsible. That's part of sustainability too. And I feel like that piece is one that often goes overlooked. Maybe socially responsible kind of means to some folks fair trade, fair wages for our farm workers. But I also feel like there's another piece. Is it socially responsible, for example, to have a movement that might be exclusive, that might be extremely disproportionate in its representation of our community as a whole, right? Our population of eaters, consumers. Are we kind of looking at that? You know, are we scaling back and really looking at ourselves and making sure that we're being inclusive and that we're being socially responsible and fairly representing the community that we're serving? For example, do we even realize how disproportionate the representation, the community of farmers really is? 94% of our farmers are white. Does that represent today's country? A third of our population is non-white, and it's growing. In 15 to 20 years, the minority will be the majority, is what a lot of statistics are proposing, right? So that's an extreme disparity. And why is that important? You know, as long as we have people growing food, what does it matter what color they are? Well, I think it matters definitely for quite a few reasons. For example, our population, if it's a third people of color, and the vast majority of communities of color, our consumers, our food eaters, are suffering at a disproportionate rate from diet-related illnesses. The majority of food deserts are in communities of color. You know, culturally relevant foods aren't available. Where does that fit in to food access and health? So it's important that the farmers and the food leaders that are trying to address these situations come from these communities. I think that's socially responsible. Another reason, and it's more personal, you know, I'm a young beginning farmer, and to get me excited to get into farming, to make me feel like this is an area for me, I want to see people like me. You know, the 94% of the farmers are white, and they're aging out. Who's going to replace our farmers? The average age of the farmer today is 58. And for the black farmer, it's 63. Who's going to be the next farmers? How are we going to engage them? How are we going to understand what's going on in these communities and bring in new farmers? You know, it's hard to get excited when you feel like this arena is not for you. I mean, I get excited, I go home and I read Eliot Coleman, and I just bought J.M. Fortier's book yesterday. I can't wait to go home and read it. But I'm just a little more excited if I can read Booker T. Watley's book on how to make $100,000 farming on small acreage. If I can read Will Allen's book about vermicomposting and urban farming, because I see a little bit of myself in him. You know, and J.M. Fortier, I don't know if any of you were in his presentation yesterday, but he kind of touched on it. He said that him and his wife farmed around. They went to Mexico farming a little bit. They were in Cuba farming a little bit. But his biggest influence, it felt like where he learned the most, was with another Francophone farmer. He had a connection there. You know, we need to build those connections in our communities to draw people into farming, to make them feel like this is for you. So those are some of the reasons why I think it's really important to be looking at the face of our farming community and be socially responsible and make sure we're being holistically sustainable.